Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Zhu and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. Today, let's talk about Social Darwinism, a philosophical theory which gained a lot of popularity in Western Europe and North America in the late and early 20th centuries. Even nowadays, some people are still using this theory for certain purposes. In this video, I'm going to explain what it is, why it became popular, and why it has been strongly criticized by many people, including myself. In order to explain Social Darwinism clearly, I felt it necessary to briefly explain Darwinism, because obviously the term Social Darwinism stemmed from Darwinism. The term Darwinism was first used by the English biologist Thomas Huxley in 1860 in his review of Charles Darwin's book On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection, which was published a year earlier. In his book, Charles Darwin put forward a groundbreaking theory, which claims that the truly significant cause of change in nature is the natural selection of some organisms over others. According to this theory, more organisms are born than can survive and reproduce because of limited resources in nature. Only those organisms which can adapt themselves to new environment will survive and reproduce. This process is what he called natural selection. Darwin concluded that all of the existence organisms, including human beings, are results of natural selection over a long period of evolution. Thus, his theory is also known as evolutionary theory. It is arguably one of the greatest breakthroughs in the history of science. But the significance of Darwin's thoughts reached beyond the field of science. Philosophers, economists, and political scientists applied the concepts of evolution and natural selection to their own fields. There seemed to be a movement among scientists, intellectuals, and academia to adopt the evolutionary approach in their research. In the second half of the 19th century, this movement gave rise to a school of thought known today as Social Darwinism. Later, it also led to the rise of eugenics, which is the study of how to control and improve the genetic makeup of the human population. As a theory, Social Darwinism was put forward by the British philosopher Herbert Spencer. Spencer was very much influenced by Charles Darwin and his evolutionary theory. But he took Darwin's theory one step beyond science and applied it to human society. In his view, human groups and races are subject to the same laws of natural selection as Charles Darwin perceived in plants and animals in nature. In the same way as Darwin understood nature, Spencer attempted to understand society by seeing it as a struggle between competing individuals. In his opinion, there was a parallel between the evolutionary process in natural history and in social history. So, the same laws of natural selection apply in both. He explained that society is like living organisms because it starts in a simple form and then progresses to a more complex form. In the process, each individual competes with every other individual. Those who cannot adapt themselves to new environments will lose the competition and die out. Those who can adapt are strong ones, and only they can survive and win. In Spencer's words, it was a process of the survival of the fittest. Only the fittest would survive and prosper. Others would inevitably disappear, in the same way as many species in nature have died out. Social Darwinism is thus also known as the theory of the survival of the fittest. Those of you who have watched my philosophy videos should be familiar with my point of view that philosophical theories are products of social and political environments. Social Darwinism was no exception. It was a response to the rapidly spreading industrialization of the mid and late 19th century. In the process, some people became extremely rich, whereas others remained dirt poor. A few people, such as John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie in America, became millionaires almost overnight. The gap between the rich and the poor was rapidly widening. In addition, urban poverty became a serious social problem, and crimes of all kinds became rampant in many cities. People started wondering about those newly emerged social problems, and they started thinking about how to maintain social stability in the new social environments. Many philosophers and social thinkers were seeking answers and explanations. Herbert Spencer was one of those thinkers, and his theory was his theoretical explanation for the new society. By putting forward his theory, Spencer was trying to explain the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Obviously, he looked at it from the point of view of the rich people. Social Darwinism thus became a philosophical rationalization for the belief held by the rich people that they became rich because they possessed certain traits that poor people didn't. This theory was to the delight of the rich people such as Rockefeller, who immediately embraced it and promoted it. Not only did Spencer try to come up with an explanation, but he also tried to provide a sort of solution to the social problems. His solution was non-intervention. He maintained that the process of some becoming rich and others becoming poor was an evolutionary process in which only the fittest could survive. It was important for government not to intervene in this evolution process in which only the rich could survive. Intervention was useless anyway because those who do not fit in society would remain poor and die out regardless of assistance. According to Spencer, society would weed out the unfit and allow only the best to survive and reproduce when there was no government interference, even though there might be all sorts of unpleasantness like war and famine and so on and so forth. Following from his reasoning, if you become disabled or incapacitated, we leave you alone because it would help everyone else if you should fade away. There should be no reform because it would only help those who do not fit in a competitive and evolving society. To put his theory in plain language, government should not help poor people. Only the rich could make society better. Spencer further argued that inequalities in the races, between individuals, between social classes, and between the sexes are only natural and inevitable. Any attempt to make them equal would only interfere with social progress and would fail. In spite of its initial popularity, Social Darwinism was not without criticisms. In fact, there have been many opponents ever since it was put forward, including myself. In my opinion, this theory is fundamentally wrong because it misapplies biological concepts to social issues, ignoring the fact that human beings are essentially different from animals, and society is different from nature. It incorrectly assumes that the fittest in society become rich by themselves. Spencer failed to understand the roles of social forces and the environment in influencing human success, and the importance of cooperation and empathy. Furthermore, it has been used to justify racism, other forms of oppression, leading to harmful and discriminatory outcomes. Finally, it is an unethical theory because it insisted on letting poor people die out. Spencer failed to realize that assisting the poor actually helped to achieve social stability, without which the rich would not become rich. As I said, Social Darwinism gained popularity in the late 19th century and early 20th century. Its popularity led some people to think about improving the human race so that more people would become the so-called fittest. One of the people was named Francis Galton, who actually was the cousin of Charles Darwin. Galton coined the word eugenics to refer to his advocacy of improving the human species by selectively mating people with certain specific desirable hereditary traits. He believed that eugenics could control human evolution and development. In his opinion, horses got better by breeding, cows got better by breeding, so why can't human beings? According to him, there should be a policy for encouraging marriage between people who are the fittest, so that they can produce a new elite. Galton and his followers encouraged the marriage of what he saw the clever people to the clever people. There should also be a policy to reduce the marriage of very poor and disabled people. They believed that such a policy could perfect human beings and eliminate so-called social ills through genetics and heredity. As a product of social Darwinism, eugenics was used to justify imperialism, racism, and social inequality at various times over the past century and a half. However, since the mid-20th century, the term has largely been a negative one, mainly because it was tainted by its association with the Nazis, who used eugenics as an ideological justification for the atrocities of the Holocaust. Nowadays, most people, including myself, believe that eugenics is unscientific, racially biased, and immoral. Well, I think that is all that I wanted to talk about in today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.